Literatüre böyle bir katkı
No,
yapmak
no,
lazım.
please go ahead
Okay.
and make your presentation in English. No problem.
Okay, then we can start then. Firstly, dear participators, dear test session chairs, thank you for coming. Let me introduce myself very shortly. I'm Yildiz. I'm geotechnical engineer. I've graduated from Istanbul Technical University in bachelor degree in 2011, and after that I got my master degree in 2014. I am working as geotechnical engineer and geoengineering deputy director in Assistem Turkey company. And today I will present our case study held in Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Yanbu city, covering liquefaction susceptibility evaluation based on geotechnical and geophysical site investigation results. Our presentation will consist of the general description of the project site and the data acquisition steps and the generation of the database for the liquefaction assessment. And after that, I will very shortly summarize the calculation approach that we use in the study. And finally, we will be presenting the results and the relevant risk maps produced based on the liquefaction susceptibility and the liquefaction potential index. And general description of the site, our project site placed in the Yanbu city, located in the Midwestern of Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and due to the location of the area in the nearby the coastal region at the Red Sea Fault, the project site has significant seismic activity and history. And as you can see, the distribution of the epicenters of the shallow earthquakes until the May 2015. And I will try to describe the general structure of the project. It lasts around last 3 years, and the first step of the project includes the site-specific probabilistic seismic hazard assessment and site amplification study. The first phase has just been completed and published in the recent years. And for the second phase, consists of 2 main steps. And the first step is the seismic risk assessment, and the second step is the liquefaction risk assessment. Also, seismic risk assessment stage has been published 2 days ago and presented by Professor Cüneyt Tüzün. And I'm here to present the findings coming from the liquefaction risk assessment. And the first step, as I just described just below, I don't want to go through too much detail, but we have performed the PSHA studies in the recent years, and based on that, we have obtained the site-specific seismic parameters, including site amplification factors and the VS30 maps of the project area. And these are the locations where the PSHA calculations has just been performed at 9 points, and we have obtained the PGA and site amplification factor values, as you can see from here. As I said before, these results belongs to another study, so I don't want to go through too much detail on this. And I would like to focus the data acquisition and the generation of the liquefaction assessment database. And these are the results coming from the first phase of the project called Site Amplification Survey and the Probabilistic Seismic Hazard Assessment. We have used the design earthquake and the peak ground acceleration values to be used in the liquefaction risk assessment. And as I just explained, we have performed a series of site investigations covering mostly geophysical. We have performed 80 points of 80 points of MISW around the project area, and 2,000 points of microtremor surveys has just been performed, and the results also presented, and it belongs to another study. But let me show the location where we performed the MISW surveys. And generally, the VS30 values are ranges between 1,010 up to 720 meter per second. And this is the VS30 map. And as you can see, generally nearby the coastal line, there is a significant low values representing the relatively poor site conditions. And this map also we will use as a baseline where the liquefaction can occur, and the liquefaction trigger mechanism may represent a significant risk along the project area. And generation of the database for liquefaction assessment, the seismic inputs are coming from the probabilistic seismic assessment, and the PGA values has just been used, and geophysical investigation inputs are used as MISW surveys for VS30 values and the site class determination. Besides that, also we have used the microtremor surveys to understand the site amplification factors. And additionally, of course, the geotechnical data is also important, and we have used, and thanks to our client, Royal Commission, by the way, because they have very large and extensive database covering for more than 300 geotechnical investigation reports performed between up to 2014 from the early 2000s. So we have to evaluate these data, and somehow we have to create a digital database to be used in the liquefaction risk assessment. Besides that, they have very good, well-documented geotechnical investigation history, and luckily we don't have to perform any kind of additional, or these databases sufficient to understand the general risk zones or general susceptible zones against liquefaction or any kind of geohazard. And this is the general view of the database at the first stage. And as you can see, this map includes for more than 3,000 boreholes, including 24,000 SPTN measurements around. And as you can understand, it's not practical to use this database directly. And probably most of the boreholes will provide the same solution. So we need to apply a data redundancy filtering to create a site-specific and a kind of tailor-made database to be used in the liquefaction risk assessment. And I would like to describe this data redundancy filtering very shortly. It's very old school and generic method, but we need to combine this approach with the new technology like machine learning. Firstly, we need to create some kind of clusters in the project area, and these clusters, after that, we have calculated the GI points. GI means geotechnical investigation intensity. How many boreholes will be placed in square kilometer? And after that, a kind of reduction factor will be applied to this intensity to eliminate some boreholes. And this elimination will not change the general distribution and the homogeneity of the layout for the site investigations, because the new database shall represent the site conditions as accurate as possible. And we have applied the reduction factor determination, and finally, final elimination will include some kind of boreholes, including SPT and refusal values, and if the lithology is composed from the weather track, and if there is no groundwater, as we expect, that the liquefaction occurrence is strictly based on the seismic conditions and the presence of the groundwater and the presence of the saturated loose deposits. And finally, we have reduced the total borehole is around 500, and the distribution of the points per region as per given, because as you can see, I will try to identify the southern part represents the coastal line. I'm not sure if it's working, but I'm just talking about this region is the southern part. We are expecting the liquefaction may occur nearby the southern part and the coastal region. At the northern part, as you can expect, the groundwater level is just going away from the natural surface level, and the presence of loose deposits and is less observed in the northern part. And finally, we have generated this kind of layout. I'm not sure if the scale is the same, but as you can understand that we have eliminated most of the boreholes in the northern part, and we have kept the southern part boreholes as much as possible. But of course, we didn't use all of them because we need to create a significant and reliable database and reasonable time of analysis to finalize it, because it's a kind of project and it's not a thesis project. We have very, very limited time. We have to create a reasonable and useful database to perform the analysis. And this is the general method. I don't want to go through too much detail, but I would like to explain that. We have performed two stages of the liquefaction assessment. First one is the VS-based, as we acquired the VS values from the first stage of the project. And the second one is the SPTN-based methods. For VS-based, and we have used the Andrew Stocco and Kayan et al. Methods. For SPT, we have used the Yildiz et al. Method as it's just placed our national code, offered by the national code. And the second one is the Çetin et al. Method, as you can see here. Most of you are familiar with these methods also. I don't want to go through too much detail, but you can see the results from here. And for accurate visualization, we have performed a breakdown for the factor of safety values, as it's not a common thing, I know that, but in general, we need to identify the risky zones, and we have added additional risk class, just you can see here. Generally, once we calculate the FOS is lower than 1.1, we identify the area as a risky zone. But this is a kind of tailor-made solution. I know that it's not common in literature, but in order to understand the risky zones in the maps, we have applied this type of breakdown, sorry. And after that, we have applied the LPI as offered by the Iwasaki to understand the liquefaction-induced damage by calculating the liquefaction potential index. And the results shows that for the VS method, to be honest, we don't observe significant risk based on the VS method. It's strictly based on the location of the MISW surveys because we have very, very limited data located nearby the coastal region as we are expecting significant liquefaction potential. And there is only one profile includes the liquefaction risk in this method based on the Kayan et al. Method. And for SP10 method, we have evaluated approximately 6,000 SP10 blow counts, and after that, we have observed that 141 boreholes shows liquefaction potential based on both Yud and Çetin et al. Method. And the liquefied soil layers number is around 900. And as you can see, that liquefied boreholes, as expected, are dominantly placed within the southern clusters of the project area. And this is the layout of the boreholes, and in the red zones, you can see that the borehole, the liquefaction risk generally accumulated at this area, and there is no risky region in the southern and northern cluster, and not southern, sorry, middle and northern cluster, because we are happy to see that because most of the boreholes placed within the northern cluster has just been eliminated, as I explained just before, based on the GI reduction factor. And this is the factor of safety distribution and digitalized map based on the liquefaction. And as you can see, the red zones show very high risk and the other ones are in the kind of moderate risk, and the gray lines does not show any liquefaction potential. And there is a kind of zoom, and as you can see, this is not a very clear, but S9, South Cluster 9 shows the factor of safety values based on Çetin and Yud et al. Actually, the factor of safety values are very, say, similar to each other, but we need to understand the difference between the methods by calculating the LPI values based on both methods. I will try to accelerate. Okay, sorry, we are about to come. And here are the results, and as you can see, the high and low points for the GI points mostly are around 79% in total. And generally, we are more than 55% of the total GI points shows very high and high liquefaction potential. And as you can see, the LPI values based on Çetin and Yud methods. And as you can see, the LPI values slightly higher at the Çetin method compared to the Yud method. And we have created a line, and unfortunately you can see that, but the vertical axis represents the LPI values coming from the Çetin method, and the horizontal axis values from the Yud method. And as you can see, Çetin methods provide slightly more conservative values, calculating 10% higher LPI values than Yud method. Okay. And this is the risk maps, and as you can see, based on the liquefaction potential index, these maps are produced in G-space, and we have used the Kriging method, interpolation method. And as you can see the significant difference, especially the calculation of the LPI ranges. And it's about to finalize, and I will try to sum up very, very short. And thank you again, our client Royal Commission, for their total awareness about the seismic risk and providing very detailed database to our site to evaluate the findings, and hopefully it will continue to analyze and perform these type of studies in the near future. And thank you for listening.
Soru soracak mı? Sorusu olan var mı? İzleyicilerden. Is there any questions?